speaker of the Alma Mater Society. I will be moderating the balance of tonight's annual general meeting. Our first speaker tonight will be Allison Sproat, the Judicial Affairs Director.
Accountability and oversight to my position. Over the next few minutes, I will briefly explain how the system works, a few brief statistics, strengths, weaknesses, and our plan for moving forward with the coroner's report, as well as make some concluding remarks. Firstly, it's really loud, how the system works. Any person, whether or not they are a Queen's affiliate, can file a complaint with the AMS. To do so, they must submit evidence of a complaint, as well as the identity of the student involved, to the Commissioner of Internal Affairs, this year, Mark Preston. The Commissioner reads over the complaint and decides whether or not it is suitable to be processed through the AMS non-academic discipline system. A complaint is suitable if it involves evidence of a violation and does not fall outside of our jurisdiction. Some things that fall outside of our jurisdiction: blatant discrimination, sexual assault, murder, things of that sort. If a complaint is suitable, Mark will send it to myself, the Judicial Affairs Director. My office is then responsible for investigating the complaint. The goal of this process is, to the best of our ability, learn what happened during the incident. Once the events from the incident are clear, we then determine whether or not the code of conduct has been violated. If it has, we will decide on sanction. If it has not, we will drop the case. In assigning sanctions, the realm of possibilities are quite large. We can assign sanctions including, but not limited to, fines up to $1,000, bonds up to $1,000, community service, banishment from all licensed campus events, i.e. a tripub ban, restitution, educational sanctions, or a recommendation to Senate for suspension or withdrawal from the university. After we have suggested the sanctions we believe to be the most appropriate, the respondent, the person who was alleged to have violated the code of conduct, then has the choice to accept the sanctions or not. Their choice in this regard will determine whether or not we proceed to an open or a closed hearing. Following a judicial committee hearing, a committee of 7 students, the respondent has 2 weeks to appeal the decision to the University Student Appeals Board. This has not happened yet this year, but it is an avenue that's open for students. So, a few brief statistics that you all might be interested in. Since May 1st, the beginning of my term, the non-academic discipline system has processed 80 complaints. The complaints have been received primarily from residence life, campus security, the student constables, many of you in the room, as well as a few have been received from community members at large. Of these 80 cases, 26 have been dropped, 42 have been heard by the Judicial Committee, and 12 are currently being investigated. In regards to the 26 that have been dropped, the reasons for a case being dropped are one of 3. Either the cases were already handled by residence life, which is a bit of an administrative error, the student is not an AMS member, or there's a lack of evidence of a violation. In regards to the most common offense that we've dealt with this year, it's non-compliance. Non-compliance is constituted as being non-compliant with a university official acting within the scope of their position, as well as the majority of cases involve alcohol use on the part of the respondent. A few strengths. I'll begin on a high note with some of the strengths, and then we can get into the weaknesses. In times of stability regarding our external relations, the Judicial Affairs Office is able to operate quite independently. However, in years like this, when our external relationships are quite strained, it is necessary for the Commissioner and the Executive to be involved to a greater extent. By far, the strongest part of our system this year has been the people behind it. The Judicial Affairs Deputies, the Clerk, the Commissioner of Internal Affairs, Mark, the Judicial Committee Chair, Thompson Hamilton, the Vice President University Affairs, Kieran, and President Morgan Campbell have truly been the backbone of the NAD system. Further, in regards to the inner workings of the system, huge credit is owed to the 5 deputies, clerk, and judicial committee who dedicate countless hours to investigating, processing, and hearing the cases. A second strength of this past year has been our use of the Health Counseling and Disability Services Alcohol Workshop. In response to the vast number of complaints that are filed with us where alcohol is involved on the part of the respondent, we adapted to this concern. Over the summer, we developed a partnership with Health Counseling and Disability Services. HCDS provides an alcohol workshop, which is an informative, non-judgmental session about alcohol use and techniques to engage in safe drinking practices. Attendance at the workshop has been assigned in conjunction with a number of other sanctions in cases where alcohol use played a role in the respondents' actions. This has been a very positive development this year, and we have received a lot of positive feedback regarding the use of the workshop. Thirdly, I would suggest that the relationships forged this year have been vital to our success and will need to be continued into the coming year. This year, we have forged strong relationships with campus security and the student constables, most notably. Both of these groups are key stakeholders as they are the primary complainants to our system. Campus security and the student constables have also been very satisfied with the level of communication received from our office regarding the cases they have filed. Further, they have been satisfied with the sanctions we have imposed. This is a large accomplishment and will be necessary in the coming year for positive relationships to be continued. Finally, in response to criticism from a number of parties that there was not enough information being provided to the general public about the cases that we handled, this year we began publishing journal advertisements that outline statistics from the cases we have handled. The advertisement were published bi-monthly and were very well received from the community and our university partners, and I would strongly suggest that this be continued into the coming year. I'll now touch on just a few challenges. The first problem is the length of time cases take to complete. Once a case is received by the deputies, they attempt to meet with the respondent and provide a number of office hours in which they can meet. Oftentimes, the respondents do not respond quickly. This prolongs the process dramatically. There are time limits on the length of time cases can take, and they have been enforced this year. However, going forward, it would be great to see more cooperation on the part of respondents with our office. A second problem is the general lack of knowledge people have about the system. This is a problem that I would say has been ameliorated this year to some extent, however, it's still a significant problem. Myself, Mark, and the Municipal Affairs Commissioner, David Sinkinson, have been quite engaged with the community over the past year. Going forward, I would suggest that the Director engage in more significant advertising campaigns targeted towards AMS members, i.e. yourselves. This is not something I was able to do this year due to more pressing issues such as working with the administration and the large number of cases that we have handled. But given more time, significant advertising campaigns should be a priority of the Director. I'll now get into the coroner's report. Some of you might be familiar with this and some not. On May 15th, 2011, the coroner for the Kingston and the surrounding area released a report including 4 recommendations stemming from his investigation of the deaths of 2 Queen's students. The recommendation most pertinent to the non-academic discipline system was to remove health and safety from the jurisdiction of the peer student judiciary. That's a quote. Directly following the publication of the recommendations, we have been working with the Office of Student Affairs. At the outset, we were working with John Pierce, the past Dean of Student Affairs, and Bob Silverman, the former Provost. Our initial discussions with both of these individuals were quite positive and constructive. However, over the summer, both were replaced. Ann Tierney is the current and new Dean of Student Affairs, and Alan Harrison is the new Provost. The turnover in administration proved to be quite a challenge. Both the current Dean and Provost were unfamiliar about the current NAD system. This unfamiliarity and lack of understanding has been a major challenge for us this year. Currently, we have less institutional support from the administration for the AMS NAD system than we have had previously. The lack of support is shown by the fact that Student Affairs has handled a number of cases that would have traditionally been processed through our system. This is a large concern going forward and will hopefully be addressed with the conclusion of the discussions with Student Affairs, which I will now explain. After extensive discussions as to how we should proceed with the recommendations from the Kingston coroner, Student Affairs set up a committee to review the NAD systems. There are a number of NAD systems across campus. Athletics and Recreation has one, Residence Life has one, the AMS has one, and the SGPS has one. Currently, the AMS is engaged in discussions with Student Affairs via the Non-Academic Misconduct Review Committee regarding how to move forward with non-academic discipline at Queen's. Student Affairs has prepared 3 models for how the NAD system should be structured in the coming year. One model closely resembles the system we currently have. The AMS is of the opinion that the current system of NAD is the model that we should continue with into the coming year and moving forward. We are open, willing, and actively engaged in finding ways to better the current system that we have. However, we are unwilling to compromise what we believe to be the fundamental pillars of our system, that it is non-adversarial and peer-administered. We truly believe that these 2 pillars are necessary to a functional NAD system and we believe that only the current system adequately is able to uphold them. These discussions have not concluded, so first and foremost, ensuring a positive end to these discussions will be a large task that the new CIA, Liam Fott, Director, Benj Bergar, and Executive will grapple with. So now some concluding remarks. I'm wrapping up, don't worry. If you'd like more information about the system, the cases we handle, or the challenges we are dealing with, I strongly urge you to get in contact with either myself or Mark. In April, we will be releasing our annual report to the Senate Committee on Non-Academic Discipline. This report will detail much of what I've already discussed. As well, it will detail every case that we have handled this year. If you're interested in receiving a copy, again, please contact myself or Mark. In closing, I would like to express my confidence in the incoming team. I'm thrilled to have two of my current volunteers at the helm for the coming year. Both Liam Fott, incoming Commissioner of Internal Affairs, and Benj Bergar, incoming Judicial Affairs Director, have worked in the Judicial Affairs Office this past year and shown themselves to be extremely competent. I wish you all the best of luck in the coming year, and I have a huge amount of confidence in the direction you will take the office and the NAD system. As well, I would like to urge the incoming executive to be and stay engaged and invested in the NAD system. Your support will be crucial in the coming year. Lastly, I encourage the incoming assembly members and AMS members at large to stay engaged in the NAD system. It is truly a unique system that I believe is a crucial part of our student government and Queens more broadly. Thank you for your time and attention.
This time it's appropriate if anyone would like to ask a question, Ms. Crow, to do so. If you would like to ask a question, please come up to the podium. No questions. Together comprise the AMS executive to deliver their State of the Union address.
All right. Again, nice to address you. This time I have a microphone, so hopefully I won't share my voice going over for the entire evening. Really, really excited to be here to speak to all of you tonight about the accomplishments of the AMS team for 2011-2012. This presentation from the executive is bittersweet. We're really excited to talk to you about how much this team has been able to accomplish this year. We're really passionate about the society. We've all been involved for a number of years, and while we're excited about what we've accomplished, we're also really sad to move on. But at the same time, that sadness is counteracted by the fact that a new team is coming in following this, and we have a lot of faith in that new team to pick up on the groundwork that was laid on a lot of projects this year and carry that forward next year, and also pursue a lot of new initiatives. The AMS is known for its annual turnover, and some people look at that as one of the biggest risks of the society, but I actually see it as one of our biggest strengths. And what's so fantastic about it is that every year new students come into these roles, and they each have a different idea of what makes the AMS special and what makes it unique, and how they think the AMS can best reach out and best support students. And as a result, what we end up having is we end up having years that build on each other's different successes, and the AMS becomes more dynamic every year and is able to better reach out to a greater number of constituents every year. So we're really excited about that growth. This year we were able to accomplish a lot. Some things that we had set out to do in the beginning of the year didn't end up happening, sometimes because once you get into office you learn that they're not necessarily the best ideas, sometimes because other priorities come up that are more pressing, and they take a lot of the time and attention away from other things that you want to do, and sometimes just unavoidable external circumstances get in the way. So what our plan to do for tonight is to talk to you about some of the specific ideas that our team, Team CES, ran on in the AMS executive elections last year tell you what we were able to accomplish, following the mandate that you gave us, and then also talk about some of the broader successes for the society as a whole, things that were accomplished by the team that we were able to gather around us for this year, that were able to support us. And you'll see as well as we go through our platform that a lot of what we accomplished was not accomplished by simply 3 individuals. Probably couldn't have been just by 3 individuals, but it was really accomplished by our council, our extended council, in a lot of cases by our management teams for our different corporate services, and definitely a lot by our volunteers on both the government and corporate sides. So a huge thank you to our volunteers, to our team, to our staff. Really fantastic. We're really proud of this effort, but we've also highlighted in this presentation as well areas that we weren't able to fulfill, and areas that we see as potential concerns for the society, to help give you, as the society, a sense of where we still need to go, where we still need to improve, and areas that we think are opportunities for students like you to get involved in future years, take up and build on the legacy that we hope will leave behind, and also just continue to help strengthen our organization on an ongoing basis. So, with no further ado, we'll get started on this PowerPoint. It has a number of slides. Okay, so one of our big responsibilities, here is we come in on a mandate as elected as an executive team, Team CES. We did make those promises to the student population, so we do want to hold ourselves accountable to that and go through those promises that we made. But we're also very cognizant of the fact that, once elected, you're no longer the executive team, you're now the AMS team. And so this is a chance for us to go back to what we ran on, but we're definitely cognizant of the fact that we did not do it alone. Ashley wants to do something really corny, so we're Team CES. I'm Morgan Campbell.
I'm Ashley Egan.
And he's Karen Slavonen. That sounds like pretty much sums up our year. Ashley and I picking up the slack for this guy all year. He deserved it. All right, so we'll start off with a quick platform and review. All right, so the biggest thing in our platform last year, probably one of the most contentious and talked about issues, was the idea of opening up a grocery store in the Queen's Centre. It was definitely ambitious for us. I can tell you on our election night, we were both, very, very excited, but we were also like, wow, crap, now we got to get this done. So that was a little bit nerve-wracking, but we powered through throughout the summer, had a lot of help from our university stakeholders, had some help from the City of Kingston. The Kingston Economic Development Corporation was a real help as well, so we were able to get advice from them. And our municipal affairs director, or commissioner, ran around and talked to a lot of people and got a lot of public buy-in for this idea before any of the groundwork even started to get started on that. So on February 14th, the grocery store opened in the Queen's Centre, and we're all very excited about it. Hopefully you've all shopped there so far. Some of the key areas of the grocery store, I'll let Ashley speak to.
Basically, when the idea of putting a grocery store into the Queen's Centre really focused on the idea of bringing health and wellness and that focus to the Queen's Centre, especially because now it's students that are managing this building, and we want to be leaders in providing that focus again. So there was a huge emphasis on local sourcing of all the material to be able to support the farmers market as well as a lot of the other local businesses within the community. Again, like I just spoke on health, but one of the biggest focuses was having a low price on all of the items. And this is a big concern that came up a lot during the campaign as we were putting together this company to be moving in. And so it was really important for us to work with this company to ensure that we could provide low prices for students. And so far it seems that everyone's coming back with great support. They're seeing low prices. They're all, half of them are organic and they are local. So this is a great, great success for us. Additionally, there was a big focus on ensuring that this company coming in was to employ students. And so right now, all of their part-time staff are students. If you're looking for a job, check them out. I think they're hiring again for the summer. Additionally, they're moving toward a student management model. So this is very exciting. So although you can get student management positions within the AMS and a lot of the other services that are offered on this campus, you'll also be able to get management opportunities with that at grocery checkout as well. One thing I just really want to quickly do, does everyone want to raise your hand if you've been to the grocery store? Yeah! Okay, thank you. All right, next slide. All right, a second big focus of our platform was the idea of opening up a drugstore in the Queen's Centre.
Drug Smart Pharmacy is a local family of pharmacists. The father operated a number of pharmacies in like previous decade, and now his son has taken over the business and is opening it up as well. The nice thing about that, we did look at a number of different pharmacies who are all interested in placing bids to the Queen Center, but what we were really trying to create here was a community feel for this pharmacy. We wanted one that was going to be student driven. We wanted the products that were going to be offered to be decided by students, and we also wanted a company that was going to come into the Queen Center and really have a focus on building that sense of community. One of the things that DrugSmart spoke to us about a lot during their bidding process was the idea of offering different kinds of workshops that were specifically geared to students with different kinds of health needs. They talked about how in the past they've reached out to dietitians to come in and talk to students with diabetes about helping to form meal plans. They've also talked about bringing in different kinds of services for students who want to study abroad and looking at health risks when you're traveling. They've also talked about bringing in an optician several days a week, or bringing in different kinds of drugs that are really hard to find in your average drugstore. So all these sorts of things will be phased in over the next couple of years. But what we found with DrugSmart was that the management team was really engaged, really committed, and really wanted to create a big impact on a university campus in particular. They're passionate about students, they're passionate about Queens and the Kingston area, and so they're really passionate about integrating well into the Queens community. So we're looking forward to seeing what will come out of that in terms of programming and different kinds of initiatives. We'll encourage next year's executive to develop the strong relationship that we were able to develop with them this year and move along in that same direction, and we're really excited for future developments in that area.
Oh, okay, so one of our other platform points was to renovate McGilvey-Brown Hall. This was a success, and we did accomplish all the renovations that we set out to do. So renovations did include essentially clearing out the entire top floor gymnasium space, redoing the floors, refurbishing the stage as well to make it accessible to students, as well as cleaning up the floors and recarpeting downstairs for the club spaces as well to make sure that these spaces again were clean and accessible to students. Something else that we have done is we've included wireless in Mac Brown, because half the time you're going to have athletic groups in there, half the time you're going to have student groups or clubs. Doesn't matter what you're working on, you need to have wireless, and so again, making the building as accessible as possible. In total, what was renovated or what was invested into the building was $14,000, and this is a commitment that the AMS wants to look in pursuing for subsequent years after this. And this isn't just the AMS investing into the building, this is also athletics and recreation. So currently right now we are just finalizing the lease, but A&R will be coming in as of May 1st, and they will be renting out the gymnasium space for just over 50% of the time. So this is going to be fantastic, one, because the AMS has never had a revenue stream coming into Mac Brown. So this is fantastic, and this will help us to offset some of our operating costs within the building. But they've also agreed to partner with us in terms of 50% of all renovating costs. So when you see the $14,000 up there, understand that A&R is paying for half of it as well. Goal for next year is to increase booking and advertise club space.
Ashley's really modest, so I will touch on the fact that there were a couple of challenges in this area. We were hoping to have the spaces bookable by for this academic year. That wasn't able to happen, largely because of a significant rain flood that took place last summer, which forced us to redo a lot of the renovations we had done early on in the summer, which delayed the opening of a number of the club spaces as well as the bookable space for athletics and recreation. So that was pushed back. So it's a little bit out of line with what our original timeline was going to be, but it will be open and operational for next year. Great, Commission of Environment and Sustainability, Kieran.
So the Commission of the Environment and Sustainability was one of our platform pieces, and before we took over in May, we went through the constitutional process of adapting what was then Sustainability Office into a commission. The first person we had hired within the normal hiring timeline ended up accepting med school, and we turned to the individual over there, Mr. DeSimone, to become our first Commissioner of the Environment and Sustainability. He's managed to do a remarkable job in transitioning what was formerly a sustainability office into a leader among on-campus sustainability groups. A number of new programming initiatives were introduced this year, including Youth Mentoring Youth, a program that we took over from the Kingston Sustainability Center when they had to shut down, and one that educates local youth about sustainability measures in Kingston. That included a partnership with the Queen's Solar Design Team and a number of local partners. A second initiative was the sustainability assessment teams, which in future years will be making sure that as an organization our events and services are as sustainable as possible, and we're making sure that we do what we can in the community to constantly improve. Additionally, the university is looking to developing their climate action plan. They're behind schedule with the accord that Principal Wolf signed a number of years ago, but they've started a public process that Adam sits on the working group for, one that's planning a number of town halls and has a very aggressive communication strategy, one that puts our old class talk schedules to shame. So we're looking forward to see a lot of leadership from the Commission of the Environment and Sustainability next year in holding cross-campus cultural forums to make sure that students' voices are heard well throughout the climate action plan process, and also for making sure that we're holding our own university accountable to what we as students pride ourselves on. Finally, something that's not currently there is recently the video put together by the Commission of the Environment and Sustainability for Recyclemania reached the top 10 for an international contest as the only one of the Canadian universities to make it to the top 10. So, shameless plug, like it on Facebook. We're holding up the pride for the nation. Next slide. So, in our platform we had two pieces surrounding athletics, and unfortunately neither of them were done this year. The first is Passport to Athletics, our initiative for trying to increase support of athletics by the students. Now, while the passport never truly materialized, because although there's support within athletics and recreation, we're never able to finalize any commitments despite our Campus Activities Commissioner working with them closely. The priorities for the Commission changed, but some of that slack was certainly picked up by the partnership QTV has with athletics, and because of their efforts, we managed to get athletics into a lot of students' homes. The recent volleyball tournament is a great example of how many students are showing up for support. And indeed, another one of our media services was picked up by several national media outlets about the volleyball tournament. So despite our efforts to introduce the passport not materializing, certainly a number of AMS initiatives have helped increase athletics accessibility to students. The second one that we had was self-defense classes, and while we've been assured that this is still a priority for athletics, it wasn't something that unfortunately we were able to get around to. Hopefully next year's team will pick up on it and use the summertime to make sure that it's available for students.
Great. So another area that we looked to enhance was increasing communication. So we talked about communication a lot in terms of the accessibility of the society, the importance of students knowing what it is that we're accomplishing, where it is that we're struggling, where it is that we need more support. And we've been able to do so much this year. A lot of that comes down to our communications team, our communications officer, Amanda Judd, and our marketing officer, which became a full-time position just this year, Andrew Baldanza. So absolutely fantastic job by those two individuals this year. It literally blew it out of the water and worked way over time to get a lot of this stuff done, but it was really fantastic. We also invested more in communications this year, and I'll go through a couple of those areas. So we vastly increased our visibility on campus. We did invest in some new infrastructure to help us do that. So we created an AMS tent that we can now use for outdoor activities. It's been used by a variety of AMS services. We used it throughout the orientation week. We've used it for clubs night. Alfie's used it to promote one of their events. It's been used by a variety of our services and taken out and around. That thing will have a shelf life for a number of years, so it was a great investment, and then ASUS copied us, so, or maybe we copied them. I think they think we copied them. It's an ongoing debate. We're still discussing. The other area that took no investment beyond time, of course, was enhancing social media campaigns. So we used social media vehicles to augment consistent use of our ongoing campaigns. We also created some specific, I'm getting evil eye from ASUS. I'm sorry. I publicly apologize for trying to steal your idea. But it was a great idea, and we borrowed it, and it was fantastic, and it's called collaboration.
Note, as a former academic affairs commissioner, that will not work for plagiarism.
So we've done a number of things in terms of getting all of our different AMS affiliated groups to use similar Twitter handles, for instance, and getting them to do different kinds of social media tricks that I can't really speak too much to, but Amanda definitely can, to try and help all of our social media stay consistent and try and help it easier for students who want to follow specific social media handles for particular areas of the society to be able to do that in a more easy fashion. We also had highest number of interviews and campus media features that we've had than in previous years. So we've really reached out. We've sent out a lot of press releases about initiatives from the AMS. For instance, we had a municipal affairs event called the Golden Key, where we honored two landlords who have done a fantastic job in the Kingston area providing for students. And we were able to get the mayor there, and we were able to get local media coverage for that as well. So that's another way that the AMS can inform the community about the kinds of initiatives that we're putting on to try and increase our integration with both the Kingston community and the student community and the Queens community. Lots of AMS presence at on-campus events. We used our campus calendar to try and get out more to more events. We also launched a fantastic recruitment campaign where we went out and did a lot of boothing, which we haven't done in the past, to recruit people for full-time and part-time and volunteer positions, and that had a tremendous effect. And all of our staff showed up to help us with those boothing. We probably put in, gosh, several hundred hours for sure in boothing this semester. So we really took it as seriously as, for example, an AMS executive campaign. So we really got out there and made sure our presence was known so that students who have never worked for the AMS are coming back now and saying that they know a lot about AMS jobs and opportunities, and we've seen an increase in our applications as a result. We've also had increased polling and constituent research. Our marketing officer, Andrew Baldanza, has made good use of the AMS President's newsletter, which was also completely revamped this year to facilitate better sort of readership. We've seen an increase in our numbers, and we've also been able to use the President's newsletter to launch a number of polls that we've used to gauge student feedback. Our most recent poll was sent out, it covered the student usership for all of our AMS services, and those numbers are just starting to roll back in now, and it's been very, very interesting. And I forget what our exact participant rate was for that poll, but it was 10% of the overall student population, so very high.
So one of the additions we had in our platform was revisiting the website and trying to design one that was much more useful to the student body. While certainly during the campaigning period we had some concern that this was not a new thing, the AMS had revisited a number of times before, I think the next slide will better express why we felt this was important. So it's a little hard to see, but in total we've had, since we launched it in August, just shy of 750,000 page views, with our unique page views just breaching over the 500,000 mark. Certainly this is what I spent a lot of time looking over to make sure that our individual aspects of the website are being used by students. While we do have a number of media services that the AMS provides for students, it's important that centrally we have one that we can communicate our messaging through. The next slide shows some of the main areas that students look towards. They're not surprising. Volunteering, what jobs and positions we have available, student opt-outs, information, our newsletters, they all get significant reach out to students, and it's something that we felt was very important, and to develop this vehicle to make sure that students were hearing our message.
One thing to add on to the website as well, we've also launched a number of initiatives to help students engage with the website. We've launched an AMS blog so that any member of the AMS can post or submit a blog for the AMS, and it basically is a chance for us to share the learning that we're having within our positions with every member of the student population. I mean, the commissioners learn so much through the research that they're doing and the different kinds of initiatives that they're launching. It gives them a chance to share that. So for extracurricular credits, this was something that we identified in our platform as being a long-term project, and it is. So we worked on this. It started to morph into a discussion around an extracurricular transcript, or co-curricular record is what it ended up being called. And we did discuss this for several months with Student Affairs and with AMS Assembly. The idea behind a co-curricular record would be that you would have a drop-down menu of hundreds of thousands of opportunities, literally, opportunities for involvement on campus, and they would be on your cue card, and you would essentially be able to go through a menu and add those kinds of activities to your record, and it would print out alongside of your academic transcript. when we were discussing this with different faculty societies and especially AMS Assembly, we found that there was a lot of sort of mixed opinions around whether or not this would be useful or not. A lot of students asked questions around, what is the difference between this and a resume? Other students raised concerns about, we've always been getting involved on our own. Why do we need it now to be validated by the university? Some students were saying, this is fantastic and it's a great way for students to search about new positions that they might not know about. We have the AMS volunteer database, we have our postings, but they can be difficult to navigate. And another resource might be just, even more fantastic or more accessible for different students who don't already know about the AMS. So what we decided to do is go forward not with the publishing of a formal record, but we are going to go forward with student affairs on the creation of a database that will start to log all the different kinds of extracurricular record or transcript possible items, and that'll be used as a searchable database until students decide that there's a strong impetus to want to record that and print it out and have it validated by the university, and that stuff is available for us if we decide that that's something we want to look into. In terms of actual academic transcript credits for extracurricular activities, what we were able to identify is that really comes down to being able to create a course syllabi with a bunch of course materials to be able to prove to each individual faculty that it deserves merit for that particular program. So to try and go forward with getting extracurricular activities qualify as academic credits is really something that's going to need to be taken on as an initiative at each faculty level. And the first faculty that's able to do this will serve as a model then for other faculties to be able to go forward and try and do this later on. It's something that Commerce has done academically on their own for years. They do have a consulting course where you enroll and then you actually take on consulting projects, and then you have a supervisor who evaluates you on those consulting on the end result of your consulting work. That's something that we were thinking about when we went towards this model. That would be something you'd want to look towards within your own faculties to see if your own faculty would also approve of something similar to that if you were to do, for something like for psychology and then talk about HR management within a management position within the AMS, for instance.
So I hope this doesn't really come as a surprise, but there's a provincial election this past fall. The provincial government is something that's fairly important to us as students. They set a lot of regulations and legislation that affects us, whether it's on a cost basis, what type of financial aid we have, what we pay for tuition, how we charge our student levies, or whether it's just a number of policy changes that we care about as voters: environment, job availability, what we'll be doing after we finish. Some of us it will take a little bit longer. So we held a rather large Get Out the Vote campaign. It had a very catchy title, as we found out. Vote, it's a big F asterisk ampersand percentage point ing deal. It worked quite well, and the information we were able to get from Elections Canada indicated that we were polling our advanced polls were polling not only in comparison to advanced polls around populations that tend to vote at a higher rate, such as seniors, but we were beating many of the advanced polls for students across Ontario. Homecoming, the issue that many of you are familiar about. Originally in our platform, we had an idea about trying to set down on paper what the expectations of a return of homecoming meant to both the city and the university and finally to students. This ended up changing quite quickly when there wasn't really interest from the other parties, and they're focused more about getting down the numbers rather than actually focusing on bringing it back. Hopefully that changes in future years. The one campaign that we did launch that was fairly successful was the Let Our Alumni Come Home campaign. It's something that speaks quite well to the fundamental values we hold as students, and for us it was really an effort to try and get students to keep in mind that our actions will come back to bite us in the ass in the future. We did see a significant reduction in student presence on Aberdeen through 2 potential weekends that promised high activity. Next year there will be a home game during the time, so it's important that these efforts continue and we continue to show that we understand our responsibility. Part of this, which will be touched on a little bit later, is our efforts within the university district, such as the SMART initiative. The General Neutral Washroom audit was something that was taken on as a summer project by our Social Issues Commissioner, T.K. Pritchard. He and a number of volunteers worked with PPS to do a number of excruciatingly long audits of all of the washrooms on campus. This has led to incredibly useful information for PPS and has put the AMS into a position where they can actually lobby for a number of fairly easy changes in terms of signage, and a number of long-term goals in terms of renovations. More so than that, we want to make sure that going forward, any new buildings are constructed to a level where there are gender-neutral washrooms and washrooms that are accessible to students. The course registration list was one that was found within our academic section of our platform. It unfortunately was not put into place because of a number of issues. It's certainly a project that can be continued on next year, but again needs support from the faculty level. It didn't end up being a priority for us as much as we would want, because our priority shifted to some of the other changes that students are much more aware of and find much more pressing, such as the aftermath of the change to the GPA system and some of the transcript notation that evolved out of the changes in the OUR. Financial accountability is something we can all speak to, but I think Ashley, perhaps start with Morgan. All right, let's start with my portfolio. So coming into the position, one of the things I felt strongly about as a former commissioner was a more in-depth budgeting process that required, rather than working from exclusively a past total, we go back and investigate every single one of our costs and don't make assumptions. Quite often in the rush of things, commissioners who are solely responsible for their budget with oversight by the VPUA have tended in the past to not properly account for things. Going through an in-depth process managed to fix a lot of that, and the 6 individuals I've worked with all year have really mirrored the value we put as an executive into financial accountability and transparency. They worked very well through the summer to make sure that their budgets held up to my scrutiny, the scrutiny of our board, and finally of our assembly. Although some of them are kind of shooting me frustrated looks because of the amount of edits I made them go through, it was a process that was very educational for the commission side and one that brought in a lot of accountability going forward. I've always felt this year that I can justify any of our costs to any student with a concern, and I don't think that's something my predecessors could necessarily have due to lack of information that didn't come out through the budgeting process. So that, I think, has changed for the better, and I know that my successor, Mira Deneen, is committed to maintaining that in the future.
One of the big priorities for us this year as well was publishing the annual report. The annual report is a review of the previous year, both in terms of developments on the government side, but especially in terms of publishing the audited financial statements that are approved by KPMG. In the last 2 years, before last year, I guess, before our year, those were not published, so we're actually missing 2 years of annual reports. But this year, despite a lot of lacking of information from last year, we did publish the annual report. We were able to find a lot of that information by doing some major digging. Amanda Judd took on, as the editor-in-chief of that publication, that endeavor. And we're also changing the annual report policy to make sure that it's more fluid and ensure that that actually does get published every single year going forward. So we're really excited about that.
Something that I'm very proud about this year with the services is every single one of our services, whether it's hospitality, safety, retail, or media, are all either working and at a break-even standpoint or making a surplus. And this is extremely exciting because every year you see AMS services in every portfolio that are every which way. And I'm just so proud of all of our managers and all of our service directors and staff for ensuring that we are providing the best services that we can and ensuring that our services are very reflective in our finances as well. Something else that was very important to me this year was ensuring that Assembly fully understood the AMS consolidated budget. So at the beginning of the year, I went through a very, very long presentation that broke down every single budget. And I hope that this aided you throughout the year, especially when we came up to specific financial conversations, and especially with the presentation I just had. Now that you fully understand it, and this is something that I know that my successor, Tristan Lee, will ensure takes place next year as well. Additionally, we did a presentation for Assembly, or included the service information in the consolidated package for Assembly this year, which hasn't always been done in previous years, and I think that's also important for Assembly members to understand how we're using the finances in our services as well. Additionally, one other thing that I forgot I'm going to talk about is the AMS hired a brand new full-time controller. So our previous controller, Rodney Myers, who was on staff for about just under 2 years, unfortunately put in his resignation in August, and right during orientation week, we kind of put all hands on deck and put a lot of effort into advertising for this position and hiring Rodney's successor, Lynn Perry, who has been absolutely amazing. This woman has countless years of accounting experience as a chartered accountant, has been a CEO, sorry, I stuttered, CFO of her own technology company with some other partners, which has been great. And we've already seen a lot of advice from Lynn in that position in terms of tightening up our own internal controls, and I'm really excited to see that expand next year with Lynn's full year within the AMS, because it's only now that she's fully grasping exactly how this crazy society operates, and so I'm really excited to be able to, for the AMS to present to our constituents next year about all the different changes we've been able to make as well.
It was pretty funny, actually. We were conducting the interviews for controllers with edge cuts, which I think gave a couple of them pause, but very, very fun. And it was actually, we decided it was a little bit of a test. Anybody who could pass the edge cut challenge was probably good enough to work for the AMS, and it was going to have a good enough sense of humor to be able to handle all of our craziness. So that was a lot of fun. One of the areas, on a more serious note, that did give us pause this year was the request from the Journal to release our credit card statements. And that was something that the executive really took a lot of time to think about, because it was a challenging request for us. Obviously, increasing financial transparency and being able to open up our books for every student is of paramount importance. But after consulting widely with a number of representatives from the School of Business, our legal counsel, as well as a number of local charities in the Kingston area, we decided that it wasn't in the best interest. The reason for that is because the credit card data has a lot of very specific transaction items. It gives away specific dates, it gives away the names of retailers that we purchase things from, and it gives away the specific transaction details. One of the challenges there is that because we're a nonprofit and a student organization, a lot of local vendors and suppliers are able to give us special deals. Some of them are deals that due to personal relationships we've had in the past, we've been able to secure. A lot of those have been grandfathered in, and so we're very fortunate to have that, and it's something that really helps benefit a lot of the student population at Queen's. And so we didn't want to divulge that information. According to our legal counsel as well, we would have to ask for the permission of all of our vendors as well before we'd be able to do that. Another area of concern as well was that it gives a very small snapshot into the overall AMS finances. It gives you a view into, it's probably less than, 25% of the overall expenditures of the AMS, because so much of our expenditures are done through invoicing, through checks, through other means of payment, that you're really focusing on one area of the transactions but not a broad view of the transactions, and that doesn't paint an accurate financial picture of the society. So as a result, we decided to decline the invitation to go into a more detailed review of the financial MasterCard statements in particular. However, obviously all of the audited statements are up on the website, and we do have open board meetings where we go over month-end statements for all of our services, talk about how the services are going, what budget lines are being adjusted, that kind of thing. All of that information is open to students, so where money is going is transparent. Who it's going to in terms of specific vendors as opposed to general items being purchased is not. Great. One of the goals we had this year was making AMS Assembly more welcoming. One of the things that we have, and this is similar for all services and clubs and organizations, is that the people who are inside obviously feel more comfortable because they already are familiar and aware of the situation. We wanted to try and change that so that every student felt as comfortable and also as interested in coming out to AMS Assembly and coming out to AGMs, like all of you, so thanks for being here, as all of the Assembly members did for every meeting that we have. One of the challenges we had with this is the room that we're in. Robert Sutherland Hall has pillars such as these that block where the tables are from where the seating is for the average observer. That means that sometimes observers have their view obstructed from assembly members, and we've been told by attendees that sometimes creates a sense of a barrier between the seated assembly members and the observers. So what we did to try and rectify this was we rented out Robert Sutherland Hall, which is the room that's used for Senate and for Board of Trustees meetings. Unfortunately, this room comes with a cost, and while we tried to negotiate free access to that room, that wasn't something we could do with event services, so that's one area that we've struggled with. However, we have tried to increase the outreach for Assembly through use of social media, publishing the information in the agenda items earlier in advance, and trying to disseminate that information more widely to students so they can come out and participate in discussions that interest them. Okay, so that's a review of our platform overall, everything that we ran on specifically. We also want to do a quick rundown of some non-platform successes and events of note. So I'll just do these really quickly because I know that this has been a long presentation. But we reinstituted the Golden Key, which is an award we give out to landlords who do a fantastic job. We also created the University District Hockey League. This is all out of the MAC, and which had an awesome hockey league in the University District, which was a lot of fun. And we've also improved district relations. The bike shop opened last week, so if you need to get your bike repaired, go on over to Mac Brown Hall and you can get that done. We also have increased our surveys of our services. We've increased the marketing office position to be 12 months, and that's had a huge effect on how much data we have from students, and then we can adjust our services accordingly. We hired a new controller. We did a full constitutional review before the summer was over, and we came back and Assembly bared with us as we went through literally every single part of our Constitution and amended all of those to keep them up to date, take out committees that weren't meeting, and adjust all of that to be accurate. We also added an opportunities and outreach coordinator to the HR office to try and decrease the volume of work that was being placed on one person. For over 500 staff members and 1,000 volunteers, one person is just not enough to deal with HR issues. We also solved the issue out of the Academic Affairs Commission of the drops on transcripts. I don't know if you know this, but if you dropped a course after the add drop period this year, the university tried to put a DR on your transcript to show that that had happened. So we were able to get that reversed at Senate, which has definitely affected my transcript a lot, and I know a lot of other students as well. We also had very active services in the community. We had a fantastic walkathon. TAPS had a fantastic Movember event that they were able to donate a lot of money to, and we had a fantastic food drive as well. All right, so going on with more challenges and successes, we've also changed the staff rehire process at our corporate services. The Queen's Journal developed a fantastic mobile application, not yet available on BlackBerry, so I'm still waiting, but it's had a lot of success. We've also made changes to the walk-home management structure. The student constables are seeking a fee increase this evening, so hopefully that's successful. And we renegotiated the busset fee, which is the lowest busset fee, I believe, in all of Canada, but definitely in all of Ontario. And we also had a fantastic Clubs Night Carnival in the JDAC with popcorn and snow cones and all of the rest for students to learn about stuff.
Sorry, just before we moved on, I just wanted to add that the Opportunities and Outreach Coordinator was tying in one of JDL's platform points with a need in the HR office. So similar to how we implemented the Commission of the Environment and Sustainability during our term, we've already started to work with our successors on their platform to make sure that they're set up for their year.
And one more thing, I swear, composting in Common Ground, which is a huge success and something that was a big part of our platform, and it was very well received within the service. And so thank you, Adam, and to management at Common Ground for working with us and bringing that success into your service.
And by the way, the composting was on the environment slide. Just Kira forgot to mention it. So this list is far from exhaustive, but it is a good summary of a lot of the initiatives that our team has been able to launch this year. And when I say our team, I mean the broader AMS team. Okay, next. All right, another big area was the cancellation of the Queen Center fee. So members of Assembly will recall this, but in 2005, we pledged a commitment of $25.5 million to go towards 3 phases of construction for the Queen Center. The Queen Center Phase 1 was erected, I guess, 2.5 years ago, but unfortunately after that, construction stalled. That was because the university ran out of money, projected donors didn't come through, and as a result, the funding was put on hold. So as a result, we agreed to settle with the university for an amount of $8.5 million for Phase 1 of the Queen Center. That means that next year, we are canceling the fee of $141, so students will be saving $141 next year, if you're still around. If you're a 5th year, you're out of luck. So this means a huge reduction in student fees, which is fantastic. It's a disappointment in the fact that Phase 2 and Phase 3 will not be erected, and that was a commitment that students had made a number of years ago, and it was unfortunate that that agreement fell through. But at the same time, we were able to secure a number of ongoing commitments, including the investment of $1 million into the JDAC over the next 3 years, and that will be all for new construction projects. We also secured a commitment of $200,000 for deferred maintenance within the JDAC. We've also committed We've also gotten student life buildings to be a commitment on the capital campaign list for the university. So when they're going out to donors, they'll be talking about student life space and the priority that that has on campus. And we've got a student cabinet to advise on future investments to the university and to the Office of Advancement. And we've also have a commitment to preserve the student management that we took over this year for the Student Life Center buildings. So we'll just wrap up really quickly, but we wanted to talk a bit about ongoing challenges to the society. One of the one was probably the most important ongoing challenge is one that Allison Sprout, our Judicial Affairs Director, touched on tonight, but it's the preservation of the non-academic discipline system on campus. And this is something that's currently under threat by the university, and it's unfortunate that, that this has come to be the case, but we've been working with the university to try and find a compromise on this issue throughout the year, and unfortunately it looks like we have fundamentally differing principles on this issue. So one of the concerns is that, for over 100 years at Queen's, we've had a system of peer-on-peer discipline where it's peers holding each other accountable and holding each other to the responsibility standard that we want to see of each other. Students are the ones who often understand where these kinds of infractions come from and when students mess up. And they're also the ones who are best able to understand what's going to be able to help change that and help be able to redress the situation in a constructive and positive manner. So one of the concerns here is that the university doesn't share this principle, and they want to see discipline housed within the university so that they're the ones that are reprimanding students when they make mistakes. So preserving this system is absolutely critical for the AMS going forward. It's something that's taken the commitment of the full executive this year and an amazingly strong Judicial Affairs Office and Commissioner of Internal Affairs this year, but it's something that we were unfortunately not able to make any headway on, not to any fault, I can say, hands down, of commitment or strategy or effort on our part, but really to a fundamental misunderstanding on the part of the university. It's also important that we ensure continued student consultation on university decisions. If you're to review the history of the Alma Mater Society, and if you're to compare it to the chosen course of direction for a lot of other student governments, you'll find out that the AMS has continually taken on a very active role in university governance. And this is something we're really proud of. We've helped shape the university and shape Queen's into what it was. And if it wasn't for the AMS, Queen's wouldn't have this idea of this external learning outside of the classroom, or this notion of the spirit of initiative of our students. If it wasn't for the fact that we have students who are coming in and changing the AMS every year, we wouldn't see the Queen's that we have today. And so unfortunately what we're seeing now is that students are starting to get cut out of that consultation process, and it's on all kinds of things. It's on things like orientation. It's on things like how our pubs should be run. It's on things like how, what kinds of things are best going to impact student safety. And this is a serious threat, and it's really, again, coming from a misunderstanding of the university. One of the things that we've heard perennially is that students don't understand things as well because they're not adults. And I think that's absolutely untrue. I think that when we come to university, we are treated like adults, and we are told that we need to be responsible for ourselves. We take that responsibility seriously, and I think the evidence from that is what we're able to accomplish. We wouldn't be able to run a $16 million corporation and be the only student-run student government and have full student-run services with full student-run management teams, and with the only student government that's like that in all of North America. We wouldn't be able to do that if we weren't adults. So I think pushing back on this and showing that we do have the ability, the cognizance, the maturity to be able to handle these kinds of situations in this kind of jurisdiction is going to be critical for next year as well. We also need to reach out to an increasingly fragmented community of faculty, students, staff, administration, and alumni. We're not the only ones who are feeling frustrated right now. The university's faculty are feeling frustrated as well. They often don't feel like they're being consulted well enough on decisions. And as a result, different groups of our community are starting to faction off, and we're starting to look at specifically what do we need. And I think that taking that sort of insular view of saying, how is the pension going to affect me particularly, or how are salary increases going to affect me particularly, or even looking at, how is a student-run orientation the most important thing on campus, is too narrow. And we have to look more broadly about saying, how do we all come together to look at these kinds of issues and say, how do we use our collective experiences and our collective perspectives to come up with the best solution for Queen's in particular. And I think reaching out to the staff at the institution, the faculty at the institution, our university senate, our university council, and especially our alumni as well, who've been left out of this conversation, is going to be critical to getting to the right answer, and also reestablishing a sense of community on our campus. Ensuring a successful return of homecoming is integral to this. I think a lot of alumni are frustrated that they haven't had a chance to come home, and that there haven't been proper avenues for them to be able to reach out and reconnect with their alma mater for a number of years. The preservation of University Council. University Council is a body of over 150 alumni, senators, board of trustee members, and right now the university is looking to do away with it. So we would like to be able to preserve that body because we think it's important to bring all community members and stakeholders around the table to be able to talk candidly about different kinds of issues that are facing our community. Ensuring continued respect for governance protocols. I'm not going to get too much into, but increasing demand on our government services, is a key area. We are seeing the government side grow quite a bit, and the government side is funded out of the AMS specific fee. This year we were luckily able to stave off the deficit because of an unexpected increase in enrollment. However, in future years we're going to have to take a serious look at the AMS specific fee in particular because of the fact that it does come out of a separate funding source than our services, and as a result there's no other sources of revenue beyond sponsorship and a few other smaller sources to help fund that side. So if we want to continue to offer increasing government services, we're going to have to increase the fee, or we're going to have to shut down different parts of our government offerings right now. And the university's draft alcohol policy. This is still a draft, but right now the university is looking at implementing a number of measures that would affect our campus pubs and drive students to, we suspect, drive students to off-campus pubs. One of the first initiatives that went along with this was the implementation of a dry residence this past year during orientation week. Reports from a lot of dons say that actually went really well. So taking a hard look at which kinds of alcohol measures in terms of reducing alcohol on campus are going to be beneficial, but also which kinds of alcohol measures are going to be harmful for students will be an important area to look at as well. I think we're done. Yay! That was long, I know, but hopefully it was useful for a lot of you. I hope it answered some questions. If any of you were looking at our platform and thinking, what happened and what didn't happen on those? We really appreciate the ongoing commitment and feedback from students, and we'll let you get on with the rest of the evening. Luckily it's short.
I just wanted to add one more thing before we close. A lot of what we talked about really depended, as Morgan said at the beginning, on the staff members that work for the AMS, volunteers or paid otherwise. Specifically for me, that's the 6 commissioners who operate what's essentially the government side. And I know Ashley would thank the directors, and the 3 of us would thank the officers. So I'd like to extend a big thank you and congratulations to all the people who've helped move the AMS forward throughout this year, because without you, we don't do well, and it's you who really drives forward a lot of these initiatives. So thank you very much.
To HSC member at large, I had a question. A lot of times when we're asked, when the administration is trying to propose changes to the university, a rationale given is, this is how every other university body does this is how every other university in Ontario does this, or this is how every other university in Canada does this. How do we deal with, based on your experiences, what are the best ways to deal with that kind of an argument? Like, what makes Queens other than student empowerment from an administrative perspective?
You know, it's interesting that on the one hand, the university talks so much about how do we set ourselves apart, and then they spend another half of their time telling us that we have to be brought in line with other universities. Certainly I know each of the 3 of us and many of the people who work for the AMS would stand up and say it's the student involvement and the student government that sets Queens apart, and it's certainly what we support. So when the university comes out and says we need to do what other universities are doing, we're not opposed to looking at what they do, to looking at what they do well and looking at where we can improve our system. Fundamentally, we are opposed to the answer being students should not be involved, because as a society and as a government, that's our core value, and we've certainly shown over our long history, and especially over the last few years, that we can do a lot, and a lot that is good. So when the university comes forward and says that, this is not how McMaster does it, this is not how Western does it, it's the university that does it, we're open to solutions, but those solutions have to come within a system that supports what we're doing, supports what we as students are trying to do, because what we're trying to do is step up as the leaders that Queens wants us to be. And so if we're going to continue as a university to publish that spirit of the community, that spirit of the initiative, then we fundamentally have to support it at the student government level.
I'm not going to add much to my report because we just did a year in review, but what I will add is that that full presentation will be added to the AMS website. So any reviews that people want to do later on, or if you want to reference something, feel free. Additionally, if you want to ask a question at a later date about anything that was raised from the year, this is basically our year in review, so please feel free to forward that along and ask any one of us.
All right, thank you very much. The only thing, I won't say too much in my report because we just held our corporate general meeting. I do have the results of the director election to announce, but before I do that, just thank you to everybody who participated in the corporate general meeting, and I'm glad to see everybody out there, and I'm glad to see everybody out here today. Kieran definitely hit the nose on the head when he was talking about student involvement at Queen's, and I think things like the AMS AGM and reaching out to every student and giving every student a vote is a very important facet of both our student government and our overall Queen's experience. So now, without further ado, I will announce the results of the election. We had 4 positions available, 2 two-year positions and 2 one-year positions. The 2-year positions, one 2-year position goes to Craig Drager and the other 2-year position to Christine Ramsbottom. 1 one-year position to Brian Lynch, and 1 one-year position to Duncan Peterson. Congratulations to the new directors. We certainly had a very strong applicant pool overall, and I think that the decision of the Assembly will certainly carry on the long-term and strategic vision of the AMS, and I look forward to seeing what that board of directors can do in coalition with the AMS executive and the hired employees next year. And I certainly think that we're setting up a strong foundation for years to come. So congratulations to the new directors, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Doug Johnson, Student Senate Caucus Chair. Just a couple brief announcements. Senate is happening on Tuesday, so nothing to add to 2 weeks ago's report. Students in Arts and Science, the faculty is hosting an open town hall to talk about transcript changes due to the GPA changes. If you have any specific problems or concerns, you can bring them to Walter Light Hall at 4 p.m. on Thursday. The Dean as well as some Associate Deans will be there. If you cannot make it then, feel free to email f2deans@queensu.ca, F2 because they're located in F200 in McCrory. As well, like I said, Senate is on Tuesday. My successor is actually being elected by incoming and outgoing senators on Monday at our reception, so if anybody is interested, any senators that you know, tell them to come talk to me. My email is sscc@queensu.ca. I welcome any questions. Thank you.
Hi everybody. So I'll try not to be too long, but I'm going to do something that the information officer always tells me to do, and do this off the cuff, kind of. I didn't write a speech or anything, and I didn't actually write a report, but I do have a couple things to say. First of all, the Tricolor Awards, I picked that up at the beginning of the semester. It's been quite an interesting transition since I started in October. And I really wish it could have been a stronger campaign for the Tricolor Award, but thank you so much for those who nominated potential candidates for the award. And we'll actually be choosing over the next 2 weeks, so you'll hear soon who will be the recipients of this year's Tricolor Award. As well, the FACSOC mental health initiative that was started last semester is something that I'm continuing to work on with the Social Issues Commissioner, TK Pritchard, and I hope to have that started by the end of this year in terms of like a long-term plan that we can actually see some results from in a couple of years. And just to touch on that, if you don't know what that is, last semester a lot of students asked me about Fall Reading Week and whether we could have a Fall Reading Week, what were the challenges, et cetera. And so I decided to do some research on it, And what I found with a lot of consultation amongst the different communities and faculty societies was that most students couldn't figure out how they could actually have a fall reading week that would fit into their schedule with their particular programs. So what we discovered, it was actually at an NSS assembly, was that Queens doesn't do this Band-Aid solution. We don't do a one-size-fits-all for students, which is kind of touches upon what the executive was saying with how the university has, been applying what other universities do, which a lot of other universities have taken on this fall reading week system. But what we realize is, we have an orientation week for every single faculty. Why would we have a reading week for everybody that isn't tailored to each faculty, right? So essentially what I would like to see happen in the next couple of years is some sort of mental health recommendations that are created and new systems, whatever needs to happen, in the specific faculty societies that are specific to faculty needs. The next thing it was touched upon in the executive's presentation was homecoming. So they did a really good job with their campaign this year, and we actually had not that many students on Aberdeen, and I've heard it through all the different levels of administration, including the board, that they were very impressed and they were happy to see that there was a low number of students on the street during that weekend. And I would just like to say that this is something that I'm continuing on as one of my platform points that I do want to see in the near future. And if you could tell your friends and make sure that it stays on their minds during fall to keep the attendance as low as possible on Aberdeen, that would be really helpful. And hopefully in the near future there'll be more news on a future fall reunion that could happen possibly. Student consultation, I just wanted to talk quickly about that. I'm just kind of thinking of the presentation that the exec gave tonight was kind of interesting because especially that last page, I was thinking about it and I thought, this is a very long presentation. I'm sorry, it was a very long presentation, but it was a good presentation. But I was thinking it's really important that you guys understand that students are being cut out of the equation right now. I'm one of those student leaders who has experienced it even just in the beginning of my role, and I know how last year's history kind of had an effect on that. But it's really important that every student understands that if students start to get cut out of the equation, then students will no longer be able to thrive in the community that we have. And I guess I wanted to talk quickly about a reflection that I had just in the last weekend when I was away at another university. I'm not going to name it. But I went to this university for a conference, and while I was there, I chatted with a bunch of different students. I chatted with the president of the student union there. And she was all excited, and she was really stoked about, doing all these great things for her community. I was like, wow, they have really nice student union offices. It seems like their student leaders are incredible. Like, they were really, really committed. I asked some students, and I said, what do you think of your student union? And they said, it sucks. What, really? Yeah, all they do is they try and improve spirit on campus. They try and improve the community, but they never really accomplish anything. And, it's a residential school, mind you, and it's very similar to Queens. It's very smart students. They live really close to campus. There isn't too much to do outside of campus. Yet, some of the students I talked to said, I go to class and I go home. I don't identify with the school. I don't identify with the student union. I identify with my program, and that's it. And I thought that's so interesting because at Queens, we identify with all these different things. I identify as a Welcome employee, as a student leader, as a friend with engineers, all these different things, or where I live, etc. And I was reflecting on why Queens has this community. Why do we have this? And it came to my mind when I realized that this student union didn't run their own student services, which also meant that they didn't have too much connection with their student clubs and so on. And what I thought about is what's really great about this society, this student government specifically, the Alma Mater Society, is that the corporate side actually plays a big part in encouraging and supporting our community. I know a lot of students get connected through the services that they work for or the clubs they're a part of. If you're a part of a club or you're a part of a service, you probably have a friend that's a part of another one or isn't a part of it, and they're connected to that network that way. Anyways, so what I'm getting at here is that with the university starting to cut out student consultation and starting to review the way students do things, it's really important that we continue to do them well, and we continue to show the university that as Queen's students, we can do things for ourselves, and we have for the past over 100 years, and this society specifically does that very well. And the last point I want to touch on, I know I'm going on a little bit longer than I thought I would, but the outgoing executive and the team that I've gotten to work with this year, I mean, I've only been in office since October, but they're absolutely incredible. And you guys should really commend them. If you get a chance to talk to them afterwards, I haven't seen such commitment from individuals in my life. And I really want to say that the executive, who have become, well, they were good friends before, they've become much better friends of mine, and I know that, you know, the rector has traditionally tried to work with both societies, and I have worked with both societies, but I really feel that this year, the rector has been able to work extremely close with the society and extremely close to the executive on a bunch of initiatives, and it's something that Greg McKellar, the informations officer, said to me, is that when a group of student leaders come out strong, it means that all students benefit very well from it. We're better at advocating when we're in numbers, and we're better in supporting you as students and supporting our community. And I guess on a turning point, the incoming executive, which Doug Johnson, Mira Deneen, and Tristan Lee, congratulations, and congratulations to the council and the commissioners. Not only have they had a very positive transition so far with the executive, but I've already got relationships with them from this past year just because of the very close relationship I've had with the AMS. And I'm very much looking forward to next year facing a lot of these problems with that executive team and with the rest of the team of the AMS, and including everybody else who volunteers that works for the AMS. So anyways, on that last note, thank you everyone for the positive feedback and for engaging this year. And I encourage you to, this is going to be a shameless plug, but go on the Facebook page, Office of the Rector, and click like, because it was one of my platform points to have like a monthly newsletter. I realize that's somehow challenging, but if you go on the Office of the Rector Facebook page, I do update it as frequently as possible with updates that are going on in the university. Anyways, enjoy the rest of the AGM. Thank you very much.
Good evening. So I'll keep my report very brief, if possible. So a major project I'm undertaking at this moment as part of the Senate Committee on Academic Development is drafting a document that will have some guiding principles and procedures for future program suspensions. And this was a motion that was passed through Senate, moved by Senator Maureen Campbell to Tascad with this document writing. And right now I'm on a committee of 4, so it's quite a big stake I have in this policy writing process, which is quite exciting. We had our first meeting this morning. We talked about some best practices from various faculties. We found that some faculties did a much better job of consulting with different stakeholders before suspension. Namely, Commerce has a fantastic protocol in place, while other faculties, such as the biggest one, doesn't really have mechanisms like that in place. So we're trying to put together some guiding principles that will go forward, as well as striking the balance between a very prescriptive process for everybody and a very vague generalization. So we'll see where we get on that front. I'm very excited to be working in this process. And some things we came up with this morning, I'll just briefly share with you, is one, that timing of suspension should take into account OU Act deadlines, especially for direct entry programs. 2, cyclical review of programs after suspension is being made to make sure that the suspension isn't just forever. 3, minimizing impact on the current students that are enrolled in the program to make sure their academic careers can be preserved. So if you'll notice, a lot of these have to deal with what happens after the suspension. So what I like to do in the next couple of meetings is to really shift the focus on what happens before the suspension to try to prevent suspensions if possible. So if you have any ideas, any input, any faculty-specific insights you'd like to share with me, please send me an email at trustee@ams.queensu.ca or come to see me in my office, Queen Center 608, and I'd love to chat with you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'll make this very quick. Shameless plug. So this Saturday will be awesome for two reasons. First of all, I encourage you guys all to come out for the QTV Zombie Apocalypse filming. If you want to be an extra, you can come. They'll do all the makeup for you. 10 a.m. Tyndall Field. Yes, correct? And while that's happening, yearbook and design services will actually be driving around the university district handing out yearbooks. So you can have your yearbook delivered while you're partaking in a zombie apocalypse film, which is possibly the coolest Saturday I can think of ever happening. So once again, if you are interested in that, Tyndall Field at 10 a.m. They'll do all the makeup for you unless you want to do your own zombie makeup. And at the same time, visit the YDS Facebook page, and then you can send an email or tweet at Yearbook Mobile with your address, and they'll deliver your yearbooks for you. So check both of those out. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Alex Miller here, AMS Human Resources Officer. I just wanted to let everyone know that our spring hiring season is still happening. There's a number of extended deadlines that will be on the AMS website, I would say within the next 12 hours or so. They're all listed in the front of the AMS lobby right now. So a number of extended deadlines from last Friday's deadlines, as well as all of the media staff positions are due this upcoming Friday. So check out the AMS website as well as the AMS lobby if you're interested in getting involved in the AMS next year.
Hello. Just wanted to make a quick statement, since I have the opportunity to do so, about how impressed I am with the student leaders here at Queen's and the community in general. I've had the opportunity to meet with and build friendships with a lot of the leaders here this year, and I'm truly, truly impressed with everyone I've met with, and I just want to tell you all to keep it up, and we'll build a stronger community in the future. Thanks, guys.
Members of the Alma Mater Society, with the permission of President Wheeler, I am pleased to report on you on behalf of the Engineering Society over this past year. It occurred to me recently that while I've had the opportunity to discuss and work with you on a number of the issues that have come about this year, I would be quite surprised if many of you really knew a lot about what the Engineering Society has done. So, I'm here and I would like to provide for you a brief summary of some of the biggest issues we as an organization have worked to address in 2011-2012. So, to start off, we worked hard to resolve a number of inefficiencies in our operations. Last spring, we shifted our yearbook and agenda publishers, allowing us to save several $1,000s, provide a higher quality product, including a full-color yearbook, and produce both in an environmentally friendly manner. Another major achievement has been the streamlining of our summer office. 2 years ago, we had 5 full-time paid positions here over the summer, and with some IT outsourcing and shifting some responsibilities, we've now been able to bring that down to 3, freeing up over $15,000 annually for other initiatives. So for this year's Frosh Week, we worked to streamline a number of the policies causing issues and allowing the opportunity for everyone to participate as appropriate. Logistically, the week ran very well, culminating in the successful integration of Sci 15 into the engineering faculty. On the EngSoc side, we made a strong and successful push to set the tone for a positive experience with EngSoc right from the beginning of students' time here at Queen's. And we continue that through a number of initiatives throughout the year, including a first-year conference. And we've already seen a number of the benefits of the substantially increased interest from first-year students in the society. This year's Science Formal continued on the emphasis of responsibility and attendee conduct as last year. After working through obstacles with capacity, warehouse usage, and ticket selling, the event was executed very well. We're happy to say that this 110-year-old tradition will continue next year for the Sci 13s by bringing to campus the excitement of Las Vegas. We've had great success with our services this year as well. The initial pilot run of a services promotional night at Clark in the fall reached out to a number of campus groups, and we're optimistic for even better results next year. We've had improved performance from our services across the board. Some specific highlights of the year include the Tea Room's achievement of zero consumer waste, substantially greater attendance at Clark Hall Pub, in particular on Wednesday nights, increased outreach to Aboriginal communities by Science Quest, and increased advertising revenue, providing a more sustainable financial future picture for Golden Words. We've also completed a comprehensive overhaul of our governing services policies, allowing for better efficiency in business management and oversight. We've done a great deal of reaching out to our associated design teams and external clubs and worked to better provide for them a number of services for their benefit. We've worked extensively with them on branding, space allocation, communication, financial support, and outreach. We've been very involved in the changing engineering curriculum. Queen's is leading the way in terms of integrating design and multidisciplinarity into its engineering education, something which other schools across Canada are attempting to emulate. Students have been very influential in this process and also in the initial development phase for a new engineering building we hope will be constructed within the next few years. We've worked extensively on solidifying our IT infrastructure and information security policies. Our first year of outsourced IT with the AMS has proven successful in terms of our email and account authentication. However, more work still needs to be done to allow our desired website revamp and listserv usage. In working towards preparing the Society for incorporation in the future, we've put a lot of work into restructuring our board of directors and allowing them to take on greater responsibility and oversight in addition to doing so for our two major events. We've also continued the process of independent financial review to ensure reliable data is in place for the last several years. Arguably, my biggest ongoing priority this year has been improving the relationships we've had with various other external groups and stakeholders on and off campus. After last year, a number of bridges needed rebuilding, and I took that on as a major project this year. I'm very happy with the improved relationship between ourselves, the AMS, other faculty societies, the Journal, the administration, the Senate, Board of Trustees, University Council, Engineering Student Societies Council of Ontario, the Canadian Federation of Engineering Students, and more. NSOC, as I've said to a number of people, does not operate in a vacuum, and we need to work well with other other organizations in order to continue providing the greatest possible benefit to students. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone I've had the opportunity to work with this year, both within the Engineering Society and outside it. My executive director team, managers, officers, chairs, coordinators, and I are incredibly appreciative for the opportunities we've had this past year and very proud of the work that we have done for the Society and its members. So thank you very much for listening to me for a couple minutes. And for the last time, Kidoler Kidolium.
Along with 12 other assemblies, 3 election debates, actually 4 with the student trustee debate. It's a really cool way, a really unique way to get involved with the AMS. Elections for speaker and chief electoral officer are this Thursday at this Thursday's assembly at 7 o'clock in the locking room in the JDOC. If you have any questions, please find me after or send me an email at ceo@ams.cgu.ca. So that brings us to question period. Any member may ask a question of any other member in the room. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, that brings us to our last agenda item, which is item 13A, new business. Reads that AMS Assembly approve an increase in the Queen Student Constable fee, mandatory from $8.34 to $10, with an increase of $1.66. See in appendix to the first. This motion was moved by Ms. Goad, the H&S Director, seconded by Ms. Eden, the Vice President of Operations. Ms. Goad, I will invite you up to give your opening statement.
As I have never done yet this year, I'm going to defer to Will's wisdom for the opening statement.
You get 2 hours. made the right decision. There we go. Good evening. My name is Will. I'm the head manager and chief constable of the Queen's Student Constables, and press next. I'm here in front of you tonight to ask for a fee increase of approximately $1.66. Currently our fee is $8.34, and this generates roughly $120,000. But if we were to get the fee increase, it would generate roughly $150,000, and this fee increase, as you can see later on, is greatly needed because we've been running a chronic deficit for probably the last decade or so. Sure. Right now you can see kind of this is our projected budget. Our revenue is projected to be around $300,000. Our operational expenses are also expected to be around $300,000. And then our allocated expenses, which is the renting of our office and other kind of AMS fees that go towards paying the full-time employees and other things like that, is $24,000, which gives us a deficit of roughly $25,000, which isn't very good. If we got the fee increase though, we'd be able to generate more revenue from our student fee, and this would bring us back to a zero balance. And then on the far side is a grant kind of thing. Currently right now there's a grant for safety from the university that's about roughly $40,000. It usually goes to Wacom, but in the near future there'll be a little bit of a competition to split that between the two safety services and kind of help balance out both our budgets. So that's kind of a projected future budget. Yeah, just hit next. Good. Yeah, like these are all numbers. I can go through them if you have any questions, but I'm not going to bore you. I'm no accounting major. This is what's important. This is a graph that shows what's going on. Right now, the biggest kind of expense is wages, followed by training, licensing costs, and then, unfortunately, salaries. So, next. Next. I'm going to go through these quickly just to explain why they're so big. Wages. Wages are what I pay my staff to work and what motivates them to keep everyone safe, roughly. This is the largest thing. We've been trying to control this year several ways. The biggest one of that is TAPS is our biggest, I guess, employer is probably the right word. And so a lot of our wages are kind of from that. So we've been controlling those wages by staggering starts for Wednesday and Friday out fees. And also we've been kind of scheduling the number of staff appropriate to the event so that it's safe and there aren't more StuCons than patrons. That's all unfortunate. According to risk is the official title. We also send staff home too if there's nothing going on, and next year going forward, this is something that we started this year that hasn't been, it's been in policy for a while but hasn't actually been acted upon, is Nick and myself have been working on a regular basis, which also frees up some of the wages. Next. Licensing costs. This is a big one. For every new StuCon, as you can see the breakdown there, every new student constable costs about $700, and every returning student constable to rehire costs about $80. And so this generates about $10,000 is in cost just to license my staff. So this is before even September 1st. This is just over the summer to get everyone ready so that when orientation week happens that we have staff. One thing too on the budget, as you can see, licensing costs are the costs associated with the license. So that's all the money we give to the government. That's the smart serve, etc. And then training costs are the wages associated with this training. So I broke it up that way, just if you have any questions. Public relations and promotions. This is something that we came under fire for, I know. People are like, why are you spending $4 grand on public relations and promotions? Well, this is the first year that we've actually done this. And this is because we believe that people need to know what we do and why we do it. There's been a lot of secrecy kind of about the Queen's Student Constables. And over my past 3 years with them, I've heard some numerous things. My favorite is people keep asking me if I go to St. Lawrence College and if I'm in police foundations. But we also get a lot of other ones. People are scared to talk to us or just even be around a student constable because I think that will immediately lead them to being banned or sent to non-academic discipline, which is not true. So we rely on a system of kind of mutual respect and understanding between the patrons and the staff. And it's through educational incentives such as advertising that we're able to get this to happen. The more money that we can free up in the budget to put towards education, the more that we can kind of reach out to the community and educate them on what we do and why we do it. We also do currently have the smallest budget of all AMS services. So increasing the student fee, the other alternative to passing the student fee tonight is we're going to increase charge-outs. And if we have to increase charge-outs, they'll have to go to, so it's either students pay $1.66 more per year, or event organizers will have to pay hundreds of dollars more for their events. So it's kind of comes down to, does this affect, is it $1.66, which I think is a reasonable cost for a student, or is it $300, which someone like the Jazz Club can afford to pay? We would have to bring our charge out to $13,000 an hour to cover the deficit. This would affect TAPS the most and be an extra $20,000 for them. Cost Clark Hall Pub about $2,000, and the average event organizer would pay $300 for an event with 1 senior and 4 juniors for 5 hours. So the student fee, $1.66 increase, that's $10 a person. That's less than 1 hour of service from a student constable. I'm pretty sure that everyone in this room has used our service for more than an hour, so it's a pretty justifiable cost still. What about a surplus? I know this has been thrown around. What happens if we have all this money sticking around? What do we do with it? Well, we've decided that we would create kind of a grant system so that this money would be used for smaller clubs and different on-campus groups who want to have student constables but can't they can't afford it, or they've never had them in the past, they don't have the budget, stuff like that. So we would give them the money and give them the free student constables. This would help make the community a safer place. It would also allow us to reach out to different markets that we haven't kind of touched yet. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
So Will's being really modest. It's not only advertising that's getting the word out and helping improve our relationships, but it's also the effort that he, Nick, and all the constables have put into training and learning better customer service practices, incentivizing great customer service with the student constables on duty. All of these things are helping us chip away at the negative image that the constables have had for years, slowly, one interaction at a time. You can't just flip a switch and make a service be as well loved as Wacom. That doesn't happen, but we're trying every shift, and I've seen huge improvements in the service this year. And we need to get this fee increase for several reasons, but the most important one is that the AMS stands for peers running and supervising and taking care of their peers. This is what we're all here to do. We think that we are the most qualified to look out for each other. And with the student constables, if we were to lose this service, we'd be losing an integral part of the society. We'd be not fulfilling our mandate as the alma mater society. We believe that going the route of the student fee is more appropriate and more fiscally responsible than by increasing charge-outs, because of the fact that it represents the cost of what it takes to run this service. We want to be upfront. We don't want to cheat and lie and say it only costs $2 to run this service and then have massive charge-outs like other security companies might have. We want to say this is what it costs to run the service, and look, it's less than 1 hour, and I bet every single person, as Will has said, has had more than 1 free hour of constables in their time at Queen's. Think of every football game that you go to, every orientation event you go to. You're not paying for them to take care of you, but they're there to look out for your best interests. So unless anyone else has anything to add, I guess I'll just go right into the, we're doing questions first, I get. Questions for Will or myself? Patrick, over to you.
Open up the floor for any statements or comments by members. If you would like to make a statement on this motion, please come up to the podium where you can make a statement.
I caught it. All right, Mitch Piper, Chair of the AMS Board of Directors. The AMS Board of Directors strongly supports the increase in the student fee, and I encourage all the members in this room to also increase the student fee. These two did an excellent job at explaining the reasons. And I think it's important to note, too, that since the Ontario government mandated security licenses for all all people performing security duties in Ontario, which obviously are the StuCons. The AMS, the Hospitality and Safety Services Director, the Board of Directors, the Executive, the Chief StuCons have all been working to mitigate the effect of these increased costs and not pass that off to either students in the form of a student fee or to clubs or to organizations in the form of a charge-out rate. There comes a point where we need to look forward. We need to look into the future. This small increase in the student fee feasibly can sustain this service for a number of years to come, and that's an important thing to look at here. So a small increase can lay a foundation today for an important service going into the future. This really is a service that affects not only every other service within the AMS in one way, shape, or form, or every other not just corporate service offered, but broader service offered by this society, but it also affects each and every single student. And I think the importance of campus safety and the importance of peers looking out for peers is something that we really need to support. And this is both a fiscally smart thing to support and also a smart philosophy to support as well. So the Board of Directors strongly supports this, and we encourage you to do the same.
Hi, I'm Jess Flower. I'm currently the events manager for TAPS and also the incoming head manager for next year for TAPS. And I just want to pledge TAPS support for the fee increase for the StuCons. As the manager, I've worked really closely with the StuCons this year, and their service to the community is invaluable. And some of the charge-outs that Gracie and Will have mentioned, not like they would come, like TAPS would have to implement some of those charge-outs, so that pint of Molson M could go up to $6.25, or those breadsticks could go up to $5. So yeah, exactly. Who wants that, right? So in order to keep your breadsticks nice and cheap and that Molson M flowing from the taps, we'd really appreciate your support in passing this motion. So thank you very much.
All right, so my greatest fear tonight is that you'll vote down this fee proposal solely based on the fact that Will's hair is ridiculous. And he clearly can't match his tie to his shirt. I'm embarrassed for you. But in all seriousness, I could not be more proud of the work that Will and Nick have put into the presentation tonight. The attention to detail that you witnessed in that presentation is also demonstrative of how they have trained and led their staff this year. This is a group of individuals, a service that acts on our behalf when we need them most, and tonight they need you. So please confirm the StuCon fee increase tonight and help keep this service operating at the highest level. Thank you.
AMS member with the yellow card is eligible to vote on this motion. You have three options when you're voting. You can vote in favor, you can vote against, and you can abstain. So the motion reads that AMS Assembly approve an increase in the Queen's Student Constable mandatory fee from $8.34 to $10, an increase of $1.66, as seen in attendance to the first. You will be counting this vote, so please keep your placards up in the air. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries 84 to 1.